Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast series for financial advisors. Today's episode is The Lifecycle of a Billion-Dollar Business. Build out a broker-dealer, grow as an RIA, then sell. It's a conversation with Bryan Sweet, founder and CEO of Sweet Financial Partners. I'm Louis Diamond, and this is the Diamond Podcast for financial advisors.
At Diamond Consultants, our mission is to help advisors live their best business life. We want every elite advisor to find exactly the right place for their business and their clients to thrive, whether it's at a wirehouse, a regional, boutique, or independent firm. As the industry's leading recruiters and consultants, we've transitioned more than $250 billion in assets under management in the past decade, and each year, 25% of transitioning advisors who manage $1 billion or more are our clients. If you'd like to talk, please feel free to give us a call at 908-879-1002. Are you a financial advisor who's curious about whether you're in the best place to serve clients, or if there might be a better way to optimize your business for the future? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a new book that serves as a self-guided journey, walking you through the key steps that Diamond Consultants takes with our advisor clients, whether considering change or not. Visit diamond-consultants.com/thebook to learn more.
Independence comes in many shapes and sizes. For example, Bryan Sweet built and grew an independent business under the Raymond James broker-dealer umbrella for over 3 decades. Then Bryan, like many business owners in pursuit of a dream, found himself craving even greater independence. That is, the ability to operate in a more untethered environment. Because the reality is that independent broker-dealers have some limitations that their RIA peers do not. So Bryan made the ultimate leap in 2021, launching his own RIA firm. Bryan built an amazing business called Sweet Financial Partners, first in the insurance world, serving business owners and those who were close to retirement. When Bryan felt he needed access to a broader array of products and solutions, plus a greater degree of control over his business, he decided to launch an RIA with the support of Dynasty Financial Partners. Then they completed what many consider the independent wealth management business lifecycle. Sweet Financial sold to Carson Wealth. Today, Bryan shares how his transition from operating as an advisor under each of these distinct models has impacted his business. He shares the motivations for leaving Raymond James after 32 years, with admittedly a heavy heart, to set aside the guardrails and flex his entrepreneurial muscles. And Bryan talks about his unique value proposition, serving as his client's dream architect, and how he's embedded that methodology throughout the entire firm. Plus, he shares how he's architecting his own business life dream. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get to it. Bryan, thanks for joining us today.
Well, so excited to be here. Thank you.
By all means, let's dive in. Can you share a little bit about your professional journey and what inspired you to become an advisor and found Sweet Financial Partners in the first place?
My journey goes back a number of years. I actually started out at my senior year in college and joined the life insurance industry. Back then, my college advisor was also a district manager for an insurance company, and I wanted to go into some kind of business episode, and he suggested, well, why not go in the life insurance industry and get some good experience? And so in 1987, then I started my own firm, and from there, the rest has just transpired.
Very good. And did you always have it in your mind that you wanted to be in the financial services industry?
That's a great question. I would say no initially. I wasn't really sure what the heck I wanted to do except be in some kind of business-oriented profession. So I think the life insurance industry was a great learning curve. You learned how to deal with people. And then as I learned more and more about the wealth management and the planning component, I just gravitated more towards that as time went on and found that was a lot more enjoyable. Plus, I had a lot more control of the outcome than with life insurance.
I think that's exactly right. So your firm, Sweet Financial Partners, you grew it into, I call it a powerhouse in the industry, one of the most successful and credentialed advisors in the space. What were some of the key strategies or main decisions that really helped you scale your practice to where it is today?
Yeah, well, thank you for those kind comments. I would tell you there's several things. One is, and I think this is probably the first thing, is just always doing what's in the best interest of the client, even if it doesn't result in any business initially. It will pay off long term. And for most advisors, you're in this for your career. And so don't be short minded. Another thing is just learn from those that are better than you are. What are they doing and how can you emulate some of those strategies? And then be a continual learner. And the more you can learn and read and get better, it just affects every aspect of your career.
I couldn't agree more. That's honestly the way that we approach business as well, is that we might be in the business of transitioning advisors or helping advisors sell their business, which is a transaction at its core. But we look at it as a relationship and doing things for the right reasons, even if it doesn't have immediate or maybe any sort of financial impact. And just doing the next right thing tends to have a cascading effect on success down the line.
Yeah, I would agree. Even if in like your case, maybe you don't get that one particular advisor to work with you, but they might refer you to one or two others down the road, which obviously is a benefit.
Exactly. It also just makes work more fulfilling and feels more soulful as a result. Very good. So, for perspective, we'll spend a lot of time talking about how you built your firm, Sweet Financial Partners, the various different stopping points you've had, and some of the major strategic decisions you've made recently. But just for some perspective, can you share a little bit about the size of the firm, the types of clients you're serving, and the overall value proposition?
The size of the firm is about 1.1 billion of AUM. We tend to work with people in or getting close to retirement, work really well with business owners, and then women in transition would be our three little niches. And I would say our overall value proposition is based on a unique process that we created, but the value proposition is it's your dream and we'll help you get there.
I love that. It's so crystal clear and it seems so obvious, but until you say it and develop material and stuff around it, you can't always assume that clients or prospects are going to think that. But that's such a noble goal to want to accomplish. I'm a huge fan, just going through your website, preparation for this interview. The Dream Architect, I think, is the name of your process. It's mentioned on your website quite a bit. And just overall, you had so much educational content and tools on your website that what you were saying about trying to help people and add value, even if there's not an immediate financial outcome, I think is really demonstrated in how your firm presents yourself. But can you share a little bit about this Dream Architect approach and how you came up with it? Because I think it's such an interesting concept. No one can steal Dream Architect, but the idea of naming the process and even coming up with a defined process that really encapsulates your value proposition.
Yeah, thank you. I can't take much credit for the idea. The naming is maybe something I came up with, but I've been a participant in an entrepreneurial coaching company called Strategic Coach for 25 or 30 years, run by Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan teaches the principle of creating a unique process that you're the only one in the world that has this methodology. And so it's a trademarked process. So I have to give credit to Strategic Coach for that. And we've had another naming process, and I changed it to the Dream Architect in 2012. And then we've created all sorts of offshoots. We've got the Dream Architect Life, and that's a 5-pillar approach. The actual Dream Architect is our financial planning only process. So it's got 4 steps, and it's just a way of having you look different in the eyes of people that might be attracted to work with you.
I think that's right. I've actually been a participant in Strategic Coach as well. And that was one of my big takeaways too, was coming up with the process and naming it. And it helps to get everyone speaking a common language. And there's so much you can share about the value you bring and the like, that if it's organized around a framework, I just think you can deliver the message a lot more clearly.
Yeah, totally agree.
Very good. How would you describe your leadership philosophy and how do you think it shaped the culture at your firm?
Well, I would say my leadership philosophy is hire really good people give them what they need to succeed, and then try and stay in your own lane, i.e., get out of their way. And that's worked really well. Do what you're exceptionally good at, but hire people that are good at other things and just let them excel.
I love that. I am completely in line with you there too. It's a very strong and efficient way to run a business. And I think it does help to shape your culture because it's a culture of you're not the autocrat who's involved with everything or the micromanager, but it's more so if you invest in the right people, you let them soar, you let them do their thing, it's more fulfilling for them. And it happens just to be easier for you too in the end.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the more we let them try to, prosper and learn, but give them the tools that they need, it seems like they just really excel and get even better quicker.
Perfect. So your business was independent with Raymond James Financial Services for 32 years. It's now called the Independent Contractor Division, but the independent broker dealer segment of Raymond James. 32 years is a very long time with any one firm, especially in this industry. If you can recall, I know it was a while ago, but what initially attracted you to Raymond James and what kept you in your seat for so long?
Yeah, well, how I got to Raymond James was when I was initially in the life insurance industry and started selling mutual funds. We were initially with Manulife. Manulife got out of the brokerage business, and the company that I was with at the time selected IM&R, which was the original name of the independent version at Raymond James. So I was very fortunate to come to Raymond James, but the reason I stayed there was just the amazing people that I've met and the advisors there. I'm still great friends with so many still at RJ or people that have subsequently moved on or retired, and just an amazing group of humans.
Yep. I feel very strongly about the Raymond James professionals and culture as well. But still, I have to imagine over the years, you were probably called 30 times a day by competing firms, annoying recruiters, and many folks dangling big checks and interesting opportunities or the next big thing. Did you ever seriously consider leaving before you left in 2021?
Maybe interesting to you is I'm in a really small town, 10,000 people. And so until maybe just a few years prior to when we created our own RI, we really didn't get a lot of opportunities or dangling the big check, if you will. So I get asked that a lot, but it really didn't happen much, which I now find interesting.
Yeah. But how about any? I think you're lucky then. So your day and your team's day was a little bit clearer as a result. But how about just any sort of passing thoughts or frustrations that built or moments, whether it was to play a little bit of offense like you did in starting your own RIA or as a reaction to something that happened? Was it all kind of butterflies and rainbows for 32 years? Or were there kind of moments that gave you pause along the way?
Yeah, no, I would say it was definitely gradual. We're very entrepreneurial by nature. I definitely am very entrepreneurial by nature. And as I continued to develop outside things like the Dream Architect and lots of other things I'm involved in, it just became obvious that we wanted to provide even more opportunity to our clients and also our team members. And so we just got to a point where some of the things that we wanted to do for clients and some of the outside business activities that we wanted to do, we needed to make a change in order to be able to deliver on that.
Mm, that makes sense. Yeah, for a practice of your size, there's plenty of practices that are a billion, 2 billion, 5 billion that are underneath an independent broker dealer, but it's probably more the exception than the rule. So, do you think it eventually became a function of your size that either you outgrew the model, not Raymond James itself, but more so the independent broker dealer model, or was it something else?
I think a little bit of we outgrew the model. I will tell you, Raymond James did a lot for us to keep us there for the 32 years, and I have to thank him for that. So it was mainly a lot of things associated with the Dream Architect and the directions we wanted to take that they just got not really comfortable with. And if I wanted to build it to what I thought we were capable of, then that was probably one of the bigger reasons why we decided to go independent completely.
That makes sense. And do you recall like what specifically around the Dream Architect process or what you're trying to do with it was not aligned with their policies or with their thinking?
Well, one of the things that we put on some outside conferences, and we had a coaching company for a number of years. And we've got a lot of people that love the Dream Architect concept and want us to do something like licensing the process so people can
Hmm.
tap into being a dream architect, if you will, but get access to all the marketing and ideas that I've created. So those types of things, and also just some of the events that we sponsor as part of our Dream Architect life pillars, they weren't maybe as optimistic or happy about us doing that than I wanted to have them be, if you will. So those are just a couple quick things that I can think of.
Makes sense. To have that much longevity at a firm and to be as successful as you were, my assumption going into this was it wasn't that there was something that was critically wrong about the relationship with Raymond James, but that you, from a very proactive standpoint, there was just more you wanted to do. And you basically wanted to take the shackles off, if you will, and just have complete unfettered control and an ability to serve clients and scale your business the way you wanted to. So that sounds exactly right.
I couldn't have said it any better. Thanks, Lewis. That was very helpful. But yes, I would agree that that's a great definition of why it happened.
What was your process like for evaluating other options? Did you think about going to other BDs, whether LPL or Commonwealth or fill in the blanks? Or was your mind wrapped around the fact that we're probably already at, if not the best, one of the best BDs, and it's worked really well for us. So if we're going to make a move, we're just going to go fully independent. Like that's basically it was RIA or bust.
Yeah, that would have been us. Our RIA or bust. We did not want to be in the broker dealer world, if you will, because there would always be those constraints on our ability to develop and nurture the dream architect. Plus, we run across a lot of situations where people are now asking, are you 100% fiduciary?
Hmm.
And when you're your own RIA, that answer is 100% yes. And you can very easily tell them that you do work in their best interest at all times. And that's the other important thing is we get paid from our clients and not from any broker dealer or custodian. And so if you're not always looking for what things can make your life better for your clients and services and listening to things that they are asking for, you'll probably never be as successful as you could be if you did those things.
Hmm. And I have to think, just given the way you built the business, your ethos, et cetera, that you always did the right thing for clients, regardless of if you had your Series 7 or not. So now in actuality that you can really like truly practice what you preach of only doing the best things for clients. From a client standpoint, have things actually changed?
I would say our relationships with our clients are just as good, if not slightly better, because we've added some services and could do some things that we couldn't do before. And we've developed out the Dream Architect to, well, it's continually evolving, but we've continued to make that better. So, from that standpoint, I think we are a so much better resource for just any issue that a client might deal with. And I think from that standpoint, that's a really helpful thing. And consequently, why we typically have 99+% retention of clients.
That's amazing. Is there anything that you miss about being affiliated with Raymond James? And any advice you'd give to someone who's thinking about leaving a BD that they've been at for so many years?
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, the thing I would definitely say I miss from Raymond James are the people, with some just amazing friendships and great professionals that were at Raymond James. As far as anybody considering making a similar move, I would just tell them to prep yourself and your team for one of the most stressful times of your career. Just a lot of moving parts out of the business for an extended period of time, things won't go right. And it just stuff happens. The end result's all amazing, but the process and going through it is definitely a stressful scenario. And don't go into it sugarcoating it because you'll regret that.
Well said. I'm in the business of transitioning advisors, so I'm always very upfront with folks about the amount of work. But usually, if someone has enough conviction that the new opportunity is going to be that much better for their clients, their team, their business overall, and sometimes there's enough motivation or friction with where they were, you're typically willing to make the investment. But a lot of times, the fear, the work, which is very real, does stop folks in their tracks. So you have to really want it, especially if you're going to launch your own RIA, which is harder and more complex than going to another independent broker dealer or joining a supported platform of some capacity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Lewis. I think if you're in this business to truly have a long career and always do what's best for your clients, there are going to be times where you need to have to go through these types of transitions, and they're painful at the time. But the other end, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, if you will, is so worth it. And you always just got to keep that perspective. But all good things are not they don't come easy necessarily. And so you just need to understand that and be willing to accept a little hardship or extra work or extra hours. But I will tell you, having been through it, it's awesome on the other side.
Yep, well said. So you mentioned being able to expand what you're doing with your Dream Architect process. You mentioned some additional services you've been able to introduce. You talked about being a true fiduciary. Can you elaborate more specifically on the benefits your clients have recognized since you started the RIA?
It's literally just being able to do anything that a client asks for us within reason. Obviously, we need to feel comfortable as a firm in offering it. I would tell you the biggest thing and that clients have asked for, and I just see as a necessary evil nowadays, and maybe not necessarily evil, but it's just something that you really need to spend a lot of time on is tax planning. And we've got a potential tax law change January of 26. That may change with Trump in office, but people always are worried that they aren't being tax efficient. And most CPAs that do work look in the rear view mirror and not out the front windshield. And so just being able to do deep dives into tax planning has been absolutely a huge home run.
Yeah, I could imagine. That does seem very valuable to a client. So I'd love to spend a decent amount of time talking about a recent transaction that you did. You opted in October of 2024 to sell Sweet Financial to Carson Wealth Management, one of the most well-known and largest A firms in the industry. So if we can just spend some time talking about the transaction, your thinking behind it, and how it all went down, I think it would be a really interesting case study for our listeners.
Sure, love to.
Perfect. So something I was thinking as I was preparing for this interview was you basically for 3 years, you owned and operated your own RIA. So you put the hard work in to do the transition, you put the hard work in to build the firm, to grow it, et cetera. And selling to Carson 3 years later, some would say that's fairly quick. So would you say that part of the reason you launched the RIA was with the eye on a future potential sale? Did it just happen quickly because sometimes the best opportunities come when you least expect it?
I would say maybe it was in the back of my mind that we would do that at some point, but it certainly was a very small component in the reason, we did it. It was mainly more for the flexibility and the autonomy to build out all the other things that we talked about earlier.
That makes sense. And how long were you thinking about selling the business? Did you just wake up one day and it dawned on you, or was it part of a multi-year plan? And I'd love to hear just how your thinking developed around it.
I would tell you it was somewhat more recent than over time. And really where the subject came up even to a greater extent. I've been in a study group with 4 other top advisors around the country for 27 years. And we get together every Tuesday and on Zoom, and in person a couple times a year. And what's been happening is over the last couple of years, of the members of my study group have transitioned and sold their practices. And so the subject has become forefront because we speak so often. And then just learning more about the valuations and just learning more about maybe some of the other tools that we weren't able to build on our own that we thought we could build really maybe accelerated our desire to look elsewhere.
That makes sense. Can we talk a little bit about the study group? So I had the benefit to present at a conference that you chair, the Elite Wealth Advisor Symposium. And I believe that started out of the study group. But I think it's such a cool idea and concept because so many advisors who have been independent or are considering independence either worry about or struggle with the fact that they're running the show and on an island. You might have conferences from the broker dealer or from your custodian, but a lot of times the work to build community is on the advisors. So we'd love to hear how the study group started. And 27 years is a very long period of time, meeting every week. So how did it start and what do you guys normally talk about at those meetings?
Yeah, our study group started, we were all members of the $1 Million Roundtable. And so obviously that number of years ago, we hadn't all acquired the success that we have today, but the $1 Million Roundtable was promoting study groups. And so one of the members of our study group took it upon himself to send out a let's get together note. And I don't remember exactly the number, but 11 of us originally got together. And over time, we named the group Give and Grow. And we had several members that were in the not the give mode, but more the take mode. And so over time, it's whittled down to 5 of us. And it's been the 5 of us as a core group for probably 15 to 18 years. And we get together. One person is in charge for our out of the office, if you will, meetings, which typically are 2 or 3 days. We'll bring in outside speakers and we'll hold them in nice places. And we even wrote a book on study groups because we've just felt that ours has really worked well. And we've even created spousal programs where we bring our wives, and we've traveled internationally and actually spoke around the country as study groups. So it's just been one of these evolutions. And I will tell you, just from a personal standpoint, the guys in my study group are some of my best friends, and really just an honor to be in a group with them. And a lot of my success is just having shared ideas with them and them being a sounding board.
It's so cool just to build those friendships, but also to have so much buy-in from busy, successful people to always want to get better and help each other. Any advisor listening can take something from that. So let's get back to the transaction with Carson. So it wasn't that long ago, so you probably remember it pretty well. What was the sale process? How did you go about landing on Carson?
Well, first of all, I would highly recommend this to anybody considering, especially a sale of your business, because it's your one opportunity to do this right. You need to get some really competent help like yourself and somebody that's been through the process lots and lots of times, knows the questions to ask and all the specifics. Because I can guarantee you, having been through this, you don't know what you don't know. And if you aren't careful, it's going to end up not working to your advantage by not having somebody represent you in a positive way. So that would be a really critical thing. Don't go it alone.
That makes sense. So it sounds like you hired an investment banker to help you sort through all the different buyers in the industry. Do you remember what were your key criteria? Given the size of your business and your reputation, I would have to think 500 firms would line up to take a shot at you, but no one has time for that. So what were the criteria or marching orders that you gave your banker and how you ultimately evaluated buyers?
The biggest is culture and having very similar values. We're so used to doing things a certain way and how we treat people and how we get treated. And I would tell you that's at least we've noticed that the Midwest attitudes, since I live in the Midwest, there's a little bit different feel to them, but that wasn't a defining message, but just the values of the firm, how they treat their clients, and then what will the culture be? And I wanted it as similar to what we had now, and that any enhancements to clients was obviously very important.
Well said. Thank you for sharing that. What was it then about Carson Group in particular that shot them to the top of the list and ultimately led you to choose them as your long-term partner?
Yeah, I would tell you we narrowed it down to two firms. And I would tell you it was the people that we dealt with and the willingness to accommodate certain things that we felt were important and giving us some flexibility on certain like non-negotiables that, at least for me personally, were very important. And now that the transaction is over, I can tell you I'm very pleased that we made this decision, because there's been multiple times where I've asked for things to make the transition experience better and help my team. And they've just bent over backwards for us, and just shows their commitment to what we're going to be able to build together in the future.
Well said. Since the transaction closed, what's a benefit or two you've noticed about the partnership with Carson?
Well, one thing would be deeper or enhanced tax department. So for years, I've been trying to hire CPAs at my firm, and I've had zero luck. So we've done a lot of internal tax planning using software, but having CPAs on staff and being able to dig in, we're big believers in Ed Slott, and he's been immensely helpful over the years. But their tax department, and then they've got some amazing integrated software, and I don't even know all the capabilities yet, but getting all the software to talk to one another and making my team more efficient, that was a big one that the team requested, is making their life easier so that they can spend more time with clients and helping them and being more proactive. It was a real big one.
How did clients react to the transaction? I'm curious to hear what the initial pitch sounded like, because a lot of advisors, rightfully so, they worry about that phone call to the client saying, I sold my business, I merged my business, et cetera. So I'm curious how your clients reacted to it and what was the messaging like to them?
Well, I gave them a little story because we went our own RIA in November of 21. So I go back and I literally told them why we went totally independent in 21. And then why did we make this change? Essentially, it was we had made a lot of improvements, but it got to the point where there were certain things that we wanted to do and provide for clients that we couldn't build to our satisfaction with outside consultants and IT people. And it was one of those things that if we wanted to do these things for clients, it was either we partnered with somebody that had those capabilities, or I came to the conclusion that I would just not be able to do it, or it would take years longer for it to get to the level that I was comfortable with. So that's when we started the initial discovery. And then as we went through it, we just found that, yeah, those things are available and we can have our cake and eat it too. And now clients, as I explain it, it's the first time in the 45 years I've been in business where I really feel like I've got every piece of the puzzle, that no matter what a client might ask for, it might not be us that does it, but I've got a really competent resource that I can refer them to that I know they'll be well taken care of. And I guess that was our, if you want to call it, sales pitch, and it was really well received.
It's such a good strategy, aside from the fact that obviously you knocked it out of the park with the messaging. I think for any advisor or business owner, either folks thinking about a transition thinking about a transaction, the framework that you used, which was use a story, and you never once mentioned what was in it for you or the financial benefits. It was all about specific things that were going to be better for the client. And to me, like when we coach our advisor clients on how to create their pitch to clients, that's typically the framework is you have to come up with the specific tangible things that are going to be better for the client. And none of it can be about negativity around why you left or what's in it for you because they don't care. Ultimately, what they care about is this is a change, different magnitudes of change sometime, but it's a change and it's a pain, it's an adjustment, et cetera. So unless you really connect the dots for the end client on why this is better for them, you get a lot of resistance and rightfully so. So really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no, I think you said that amazingly well, and I couldn't agree more. Literally, clients like working with you, but they don't care what's in it for you. They care how can you help them, their family, those kinds of things. And so if you just concentrate on the client and anything that's going to be an improvement, you'll have much better success, I would think.
Right on. So I definitely want to give a plug. You didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway for the EWAS, the Elite Wealth Advisor Symposium, which is now one of the top conferences in the industry. Like I've seen it on the Michael Kitces list of conferences and having participated and attended, I would say it's one of the most impactful conferences a successful advisor could go to. So can you talk a little bit about this event and why it's been important for you to give back to the advisor community? Because I can't imagine you got in the conference business to make a bunch of money. It's a lot of work and it's complex and probably a bit of a distraction from everything else. So what's your calling or charge for starting an event like this?
Yeah, well, thank you for those kind comments. Yeah, I'll give you a little background. So, my original partner in that and I would go to outside conferences. We'd go to Raymond James Barron's, Forbes conferences or whatever, and we'd look at each other and go, 75% of the content isn't really for highly productive people that want to take their businesses to another level. And we'd talk to each other and go, we should probably start something where it's all specifically geared to people like us. And then we wouldn't do anything. So we did that for a number of years. And finally, we just said, well, let's do it. What's the worst thing that could happen? No one shows up. And so about 8 years ago, we had our first event, and we've just been improving it, making it better each year. And I will tell you, I love to give back to the advisor community. One, because I am very fortunate in that I go to a lot of unique masterminds and I meet some amazing people that aren't necessarily affiliated with the financial services industry. But if you take concepts and ideas that people outside our industry are using and try to be creative and say, well, how can I use that concept inside the financial services industry, you can be like crazy successful and stand out from the crowd. Because if you just go to the standard conferences, it's the same speakers talking about the same thing and everybody looks the same. And you can't succeed to the extent that you probably want to by looking like everybody else. And so the purpose of the conference is really to bring ideas and information that you don't see at a normal conference. And I will tell you, it's a labor of love because I also get to hear all the speakers and I get to hang out with these amazing people that it's an invitation only event. And so I learn as much from the people in attendance as I do from the speakers that we invite. And so it's actually a learning experience for me, even though we have all the homework behind the scenes. But I think the one thing is I build it for myself. And how do I then share this information to help others learn and get better from that point forward? So
I love that. And if someone who's listening is interested in being considered for an invitation, how do they go about it?
well, if you'd love to be considered, just you can contact me personally. Just send me an email, Bryan, Bryan, at sweetfinancial, one word.com, and love to have a conversation with you and see if it's appropriate.
Very good. Again, highly recommended. And I think the curated audience is probably the most impactful part from a networking and peer group standpoint. So definitely recommend anyone interested to reach out to Bryan. A couple more questions to take us home, more so just talking about the business overall and your thinking behind it. So your firm emphasizes helping clients live their dreams, which you've talked about. How did this focus evolve? And how do you think it differentiates your firm from all the other firms that are out there?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the idea came from Strategic Coach, but I've always been of the opinion that people don't think big enough and they just let life happen to them instead of making it happen. And so you only get one shot at life. And my thought is, well, why not make it the most amazing experience that you possibly could? And so dreaming is part of maybe that type of thing. And everybody can probably relate to this. When you're a little person, everybody has these grandiose plans. They're going to be astronauts and the president and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, something happens. You go to school and people start telling you, you can't do this or you shouldn't do that. And then unfortunately, people start listening to that. And then they go through life and just let it happen to them instead of making that once in a lifetime life that they, can't wait to wake up to, if you will. And so the whole purpose of the Dream Architect is to just push people outside their comfort level and to get them to think bigger and think like you were a young person again. And we started with just our financial planning process, which is called the Dream Architect. And now I've expanded it to a 5-pillar process, which is 4 other pillars outside of the wealth management, which is purpose, health, and longevity, legacy issues and experiences. We have anywhere from 1 to 3-day events on all of these topics. And we have experts in each of these areas that we can have people go to. I'm also in the process of creating the Dream Architect Life for Business Owners, which will deal with exit planning and how to use AI in your business. We're taking one for women and building that out. And as I mentioned earlier, we're also licensing the concept and people can plug into all of these different components. And what I found in just talking to a lot of people, it takes a lot of work and creativity, and some people don't have the time nor the creativity to build things. And so if somebody can plug into something that has worked and can just use it themselves without having to spend the time and energy, we've had a lot of people ask for that. That's why we're developing that. But that's literally where all this has come from. And that's literally my passion of where to take life in the future, is just keep making the Dream Architect life and all its various components much better. And then who can I collaborate with that can enhance any of those other aspects?
That's absolutely amazing. It seems so easy. Everyone wants to dream. Everyone wants to have this amazing experience when they're working with their financial advisor. Like, it's not fun to talk about death and disability and retirement and investments, but if you can make it more engaging and connect real human emotions to your financial planning process and to your overall charge as an advisor, I think it's pretty clear why it's a differentiated approach, and also why there'd be appeal for others to license the capabilities and the intellectual capital. I like it.
Thank you.
Couple more quick questions for you. What were some of the most significant challenges you've faced while growing your practice?
I would tell you hiring good people and maybe hiring them before you actually needed them. I have just found that the quicker that I could just limit my work to the things that I was exceptionally good at and that I really enjoyed, and hire other people to do everything else, it accelerated my growth. And so just figuring out what is the stuff you're not good at, what's the stuff you don't like, and then who's out there that can do it for you. And just a quick, this is just my opinion again, but if you ever find somebody that you think could be an ideal fit for your firm, I would hire them even if you don't have a place for them, because it's so difficult to get really great quality people. You'll find something for them to do. It'll force you to do some delegating of stuff you shouldn't be doing anyway. So that would probably be the big thing.
Yeah, and I like that. It's a challenge. Like, All businesses struggle with finding the right people. It's easier said than done. Even for a recruiting firm like ours, it is really hard to find good people. And it could be a challenge, but I really like how you framed it also as an opportunity and the way that you've thought about leveraging yourself to the best of your abilities. Is there, looking back on the 45 years you've been in business, I'm sure there's a lot, but maybe one or two examples here. Is there anything that you would do differently if you had to redo?
Yeah, fortunately, I don't have any regrets. Things have turned out great, but I will tell you, if I could have gone back and done things, I would just say taking action sooner and trusting your gut. So this is a long time ago, but I was of the opinion that when everybody was talking about going fee based, that what the heck would I be thinking? And I can do this in a small town of Fairmont, Minnesota. And that's one example. And so I waited maybe longer than I should have to, get to that point. I was still an early adopter, but I think if you think it through, your gut tells you it's the thing to do. Just take action because nothing happens unless you're taking action. So that would be by far the only thing that I could think of that if I had to, look back, I would have done maybe just a little sooner.
I like it. Last question here. This is a heady one, so hopefully you like it. When you think about your career, what do you hope your legacy will be as an advisor and as a leader in this industry?
Ooh, that is quite the question. Wow. Well, I guess I would hope that anybody that I've come in touch with, from team members, partners, clients, people that we didn't work with, but maybe we had a conversation, I hope they would say that I caused them to stretch their imagination as to what's possible in life and to strive to make their life like the most amazing, fulfilling life that they possibly could have. Because as I said earlier, you really only get one shot at it. And why not just take every great thought and idea on what would make the most magnificent life and try to make all that stuff actually happen? And so if I had any influence or helped anybody have those thoughts or take those actions, I would feel like that was a life well lived.
I couldn't agree more. That is such a good answer. You can only hope that that's the impact or imprint that you left on folks you came in touch with. So I love it. And it all traces back to a lot of themes of this episode around the dream architect and your unique way that you not just package your process, but also go about trying to make people's lives better. So I think that's an absolutely refreshing answer. Thank you so much for your time today, Bryan. You've been extremely candid about some of the ways that you've been successful, about going fairly deep in the weeds on your sale process, your thinking behind it, how you talked about it to clients, and just the evolution of your business from a insurance business 45 years ago to a nationally ranked practice to building something that had immense enterprise value and really doing the right thing every step of the way. So really appreciate your time and your wisdom today.
Well, it's absolutely been a joy to spend some time with you, and just want to thank you for having me as your guest, and keep up the great work. The industry appreciates it.
Thanks, Bryan.
As a financial advisor, you hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and credibility. You are successful because you take your professional responsibility seriously and are dedicated to your clients. But are you living your best business life? Are your goals aligned with your firm's, or could a better option exist? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a book written with you in mind. It's a self-guided journey that walks you through the key steps that we take with our advisor clients. This strategic thought process and roadmap to professional self-discovery is designed to help you ask the right questions and think critically and objectively, whether you're considering change or not. Learn how to get your copy at diamond-consultants.com/thebook.